This is Michael Clara. Welcome to my blog, Local School Boards Can Make a Difference. The title of this particular blog posting is The Case for Accurate Information, with the subtitle of The Role of Superintendent and Business Administrator. And I have part 1 and part 2 here, and this is going to be just going over my recommendations that I gave to the Task Force on Education, and this is only one recommendation that I'll go over, is number 6. And you can just watch part 1 and understand what my points are, and you can be done. Or if you want to stay around, you can go and watch part 2, which will be all rolled up into one here. So the recommendation number 6 says prohibit the superintendent and business administrator from withholding information from school board members and require that they must provide accurate, reliable information, data, in order for school board members to make informed decisions and votes on behalf of their constituents. And so this falls in line with the Draft Education Task Force. They had a report, and as you can see here, they talk about governance. The concern was expressed that local school boards and Utah School Board Association training for local school board members discourages individual local board members from vigorously advocating for local school board members' constituency. And part of that, what's happened is I've noticed with the school board that I'm on, I've only been on a year, but they tend to just allow the superintendent to just do everything and not question. You're not supposed to question what I was told initially when I got on the board, because we trust him and we've hired him to do that. But there's things that have occurred over the year that I've been on the board that would cause me to question that, and I owe that to my neighbors to ask those questions that I've been asking. So here is current Utah law in Code 53A-3301, and it talks about, again, the appointment of the superintendent is done by the school board. The superintendent, talks about his qualities and also in this area, but not as much as the business administrator, who's also appointed by the Board of Education. And in her position, we have Janet Roberts as our business administrator, and the law tends to go in a little more detail on what her responsibilities are. So right now, the current law is that the school board appoints the superintendent and the business administrator. But the law is silent on the obligation that they have to give school board members accurate and timely information. And I'll go over an example here. In October, the school board was voting on a RDA project, and this is part of a letter that I wrote that I could not vote on it that night, or I voted against it because I didn't have all the information. And I wrote a letter. I knew by the time the board meeting came up that the business administrator was not going to provide me with the information I needed to make an informed vote. So I wrote a letter to the board president just saying, as a board member, I am entitled to the information that I asked for in order to fulfill my fiduciary responsibility to my community. I would betray the trust of my neighbors that my neighbors place in me if I vote to divert school property tax dollars in order to receive pass-through funding that I have not been clearly told how it is being spent. And then I said, it also concerns me that during this past budget cycle, we were told that the district could not meet our budget due to the legislature's failure to fully fund growth and a WPU shortfall. Yet I find that our district seems to be awash in cash. We recently discovered that the district had $500,000 to pay a matching grant. We were recently told that there is money to hire a full-time attorney. Now I'm being told that we received close to $5 million from the Salt Lake City RDA. As I mentioned in previous meetings, it is like pulling teeth to obtain information on the budget, and direct questions about finances are consistently sidestepped. It seems that the only way to learn about school budget is to stumble upon it. This is unacceptable. So that's my concern, that I'm not able, and that's just one meeting. And I've had multiple meetings where that happens, that they just flat out I feel, interfere with my ability to fulfill my obligation to my neighbors. Here's a law here that's a bit severe and doesn't apply, but it's the spirit of it that I'm suggesting that the legislature look at and create a law that fits the circumstances. And again, this is too extreme, but it's just saying that interference with public servant, a person is guilty of interference with a public servant if he uses force, violence, intimidation, or engages in any other unlawful act with a purpose to interfere with a public servant performing or purporting to perform an official function, or knowingly or intentionally interferes with the lawful service of process, which is a different thing, or interferes with a public servant as a Class B. And that makes it a criminal offense, but I like this thing that it's unlawful to act, or engages in any unlawful act with the purpose to interfere. And that's exactly what's going on here. And I'm not saying that it should be a criminal offense, but we need to look at something that creates some type of incentive for the superintendent and the business administrator to bring forth information that's accurate when a board member asks. And then this is just another concerning with the legislature or another public servant. And this makes it a felony if you prevent the legislature or either of the houses composing it or any of the members thereof from meeting or organizing, or prevent any public servant from meeting or organizing to perform a lawful government function. So again, I believe that these are a bit extreme in the law, but that's the extent of what we have on the law. And so I'm just recommending to the legislature that, and more specifically the task force, to look into creating a law that would help the staff in a local school district recognize the authority that the representative voice of a school board member has. So that's the end of that. If that's the points that I wanted to make, so I'm done. The only thing I'm going to do in part 2 is just give a more specific example as to, and it has a video of literally the last school board meeting that I was in just a few days ago that demonstrates the need for this type of law. So if you're short on time, you can stop now and you got the points that I was trying to make. If you're interested in delving deeper into this, then stay tuned. This particular one, again, in current law for the business administrator, one of the things that it says is that the business administrator prepare and submit to the board each month written report for the district receipts and expenditures. And so what happened was this last board meeting that we had on May 7th, and you see right here, it says that they put it on the consent agenda that we're going to approve the purchasing and accounting report. And I had some concerns about our accounting report. And as you see here, it says that the following change orders, purchase orders, payment vouchers, and budget report are submitted for consideration and approval. So these are items in this report that the board will vote on. So I review them, and what's interesting is whenever I do ask questions, they get indignant about it. But then I've caught them trying to claim that, that we would actually approve. One time they were trying to do this, I think it's close to $250,000 that they were just going to put in this consent agenda. And then later, if we question it, they would have said, well, you approved it. So since then, I've tried to be a little more diligent in looking at what's going on here. And at one point, they even, Laurel Young even said that once things are on the consent agenda, that we shouldn't ask for them to get pulled off, and put on the action item agenda, even though it clearly says right here that that's what we're to do, that they're on the consent agenda. And if we want to take them off the consent agenda and discuss them, we're free to do that. But again, it gets a bit schizophrenic on what exactly it is that they want. So at any rate, here was the issue that I had, is that I questioned where this $10,000 was coming from. It's coming out of the the business administrator's office and being paid to these two their professors at different universities. And Charlie Hausman has actually worked for the district before as an associate superintendent. So I sent an email and asked Janet what this was for. She's our business administrator, and she writes back and says that it's for a contract that we have with Mr. Hausman for evaluation of the federal SIG grant. And then she says the other money was for travel that he did because they've hired him to do something else. So I asked for a copy of the contract, and she sent it to me. And the contract that she's referring to, which is this $5,000 payment that's listed here, it's actually $10,000 because $5,000 goes to Charlie and $5,000 goes to this other professor, Dr. Angelina, at she's at another university either in Arizona or New Mexico. The total amount for this grant is $80,000, and it looks like based on this time schedule we have paid them $60,000 already. And so I sent another email to her just asking for a copy of the evaluations then that we're paying for, and she wrote back. And I also questioned, that it seems like he was getting paid for more than just what that particular contract told us, so the contract was for $80,000, and I know, glancing over previous purchase reports, he's actually gotten paid more than what you're seeing here. And she said that was for the work that he's been doing. So at any rate, the $10,000 that I was concerned about, she said it was due to evaluation of the Horizonte SIG grant. So I asked for a copy of that evaluation. She emailed me back and said that the associate superintendent, Patrick Garcia or Lori Lacey, had a copy of it, and they'd get in touch with me following the meeting. And then that didn't happen. I ended up talking to Patrick on the phone and asked him about it, and he said he would get that to me. And by the time the meeting started, that had not occurred. So let's go into the meeting of the 7th, and then I'll explain what happened. And so the discussion is around, this $10,000 payment. And I should also point out, I made editorial notes in the labels or bubbles on this PowerPoint presentation. I'm sorry, on the video of the meeting. And those are things that I found out after the meeting. So while the meeting's going on, some of the labels that you'll see that kind of give explanations to what people are saying, I didn't understand those at the time of the meeting.
Purchasing, let's take them one by one. Yeah, one by one. So the purchasing and accounting. I don't know why it was pulled. Mr. Clare made the request. Sorry,
Can we make a motion so we can discuss?
Yes.
I move that we approve the purchasing and accounting report.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you. All right. Discussion.
The concern I had with the purchasing and accounting report was the issue that we had. Charles Hausman here was getting $5,000, and when I sent an email asking why that was the case, I was sent some information that that was due to the grant, the Horizonte grant that he's doing evaluations on. And then when I asked for a copy of the evaluations, apparently those aren't around, although it looks like he's been getting paid for some time for doing the evaluations. And what concerns me about that particular grant is that I received some phone calls right before the winter break saying that the school had laid off some people that were paraprofessionals that were helping the teachers and the students. And the teachers were concerned that they had lost those paraprofessionals, and that apparently they were hired and then told right before the winter break that they'd be gone. And then today, in talking to Patrick, he's saying that the principal is saying that she had to use money to pay bonuses, and that's why they got rid of the paraprofessionals. So it just concerns me that in this grant we have the money to pay, for evaluations that no one's seen or that aren't done yet, but we don't have money to pay paraprofessionals because we're diverting money to pay bonuses, and that just concerns me.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Janet says that she can.
I just wanted to comment that in the email that I sent you, Michael, I never said that there wasn't an evaluation. I referred you to Patrick who does have a copy of that evaluation. I just wanted to make that clear in the record.
Well, the evaluations, and I'm sorry to jump in, and please correct me if I'm wrong, are on our agenda. You know, that these are the evaluations about our coaches, is that right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry, okay, so
The
go
school
ahead.
improvement grant evaluation for Northwest and Glendale have been completed. Horizonte is in their final year of the school improvement grant, so there is no final evaluation report yet.
And so those evaluation
coming.
reports will be shared, how?
They were shared back with the school, I believe, in August or September.
Oh.
We'll make sure y'all get a copy of it.
Well, no, your email to me, didn't she say that he was getting paid for the contract that he had with Horizonte, with the SIG grant with Horizonte?
You asked about the specific $5,000 payment.
Right.
That is for Horizonte. And I also noted that we're not through that grant. And so we don't have an evaluation yet.
Right, so my question is that where it looks like we're paying Charlie Hausman $5,000 for an evaluation for the Horizonte SIG grant, even though he hasn't done the evaluation or we haven't seen it, but we're laying off, why are we laying off paraprofessionals that we're supposed to be paid out of the SIG grant, is my question.
Are these
I can speak to-
paraprofessionals at Horizonte?
Yeah.
They were until they got
I can speak
hired.
just to one point, and then the rest I'm not sure what your real question is. But with the SIG grant on the budget, it's a 3-year grant. The evaluation is part of that budget, and the evaluation has stayed within that budget. And the final receivable on an evaluation isn't until the 3-year grant's over. So you wouldn't expect it before the grant's over. There's additional data collection that'll be done, and that final report will then come. In terms of the budget for paraprofessionals, that also would have been part of the SIG grant. And so the site manager, the principal, would be looking at what priorities they have in the school to stay within their budget. So something must have changed in terms of either costs or priorities for the school administrator to make those decisions, which are theirs to make, and we would fully support.
So what we're saying is that Charlie Husband is getting paid for his time and effort right now that he's working on an evaluation, but it won't be out until the end.
Yeah.
And so you're paying just like you would pay somebody.
Sure. Over
Over
a
a
3-year period of time.
Contract services
Right.
over a period of the
on
contract.
in the contract, but we will see an evaluation. And I guess following that, so who sees that evaluation? Just the school, or do we see it as a board, or who sees the evaluation? that
These are
Charlie
our first SIG
produces?
grants,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there isn't a long precedent, but
Well, but we've gone
We
through
could ask for it.
Glendale, but
We could
maybe,
ask for it.
but I'm just saying, who saw like Glendale's evaluation?
Should have been everybody at Glendale.
So it
Northwest
wasn't, it wasn't the school board, it was just the Glendale population saw it. The teachers and the administrators at Glendale saw Charlie Hausman's evaluation. Is that who saw
Well,
it?
I also saw a copy of them.
You saw it.
And
So
the
it's-
state received them, and I think they're online at the state, but I don't know that for sure. I haven't looked.
Well, I mean,
But
I
that's
just
where
am
they're
curious.
collected.
I think that's kind of what Michael's trying to say. Well, who sees this evaluation? Do we see it as a board or?
There's no reason for you to not see it.
Right, but it's not
And-
generally done.
Um,
well, and there's no generally because
Let's make sure you get SIG grant evaluations. Yeah.
Then why are we as a board asked to vote on an expenditure on the SIG grant for Charlie Hausman, but this decision that was made to fire the paraprofessionals that are an integral part of the original grant, why was that decision not brought to the board?
Again, I'm not really tracking exactly the manner in which you're trying to split those decisions. You have a purchasing report that you're being asked to weigh in on. If you have a concern about a particular expenditure, that's what we should talk about. Now, the principal, if they are saying that I don't need these staff, this person, this service for the remainder of the year to stay within my budget, that's their job to stay within their budget each year. So I'm not sure what you're asking.
I think
Well,
he's
I think
thinking
what
that
you're
the
saying is-
$5,000.
He's thinking that there's a link there, right,
Yeah,
Michael?
he's
Is that
thinking
what
that
you're
that-
trying to
well,
say?
let me back up and explain it this way. When I wasn't here when you guys did the SIG grant, when you submitted the application, but there were assurances that were given. There were, a budget that was attached to it, and there were certain things that in order to obtain that federal funding, you guys said you were going to do. One of the components of that, including the evaluation, including the paraprofessionals that were going to be part of that process. And so I guess I'm asking, is this $5,000 coming out of the SIG grant, or is it coming out of local funding? Who's
Coming out of the SIG grant. I thought I answered that just a little while ago.
And I guess the issue is that I think there's two different issues. I mean, I think when Janet cuts a check or whatever you want to say, the money is spent. It has to go in this packet that we get,
Right.
regardless of what money it comes from. So it's SIG grant money that was designated, and we still have to approve that she cuts the check, but we really aren't in the decision-making process of that SIG grant.
Right, and that's what concerns me, because I would rather cut money off an evaluation than I would getting rid of paraprofessionals that people are upset about losing.
Yeah, but that's a site-based decision. One is a site-based decision was that someplace at the site, they made the decision that those paraprofessionals aren't needed. But the money, the side of it for Janet cutting that check it is SIG grant money, it's been through the SIG grant, and everything that she writes a check for, she has to write down in here, whether it's coming from land trust or anything, right? I mean, everything has to show up here, even though, like the land trust money, I mean, we wouldn't question that the school wants to buy 5 smart boards, because it's land trust money and the school, it's a site-based decision, et cetera, and the same, I think, for what they're saying for Charlie. And I'm not
That question, that these bonuses, that why, the bonuses were in the original budget for the SIG grant, so what did happen? So how do I find out as a board member what did happen that caused this shift in money?
I guess you just talk to the principal and ask her. Well,
we'll get an answer for you as to why the principal made a particular decision that affected or impacted parapros, but they would have had a budget to operate the school that included the SIG grant. There are other grants that are there. There are grants that they probably didn't get. I mean, there's a combination every year at Horizonte with money they seek with grants and money that comes regularly based on formula for both the DOLDAD and for the alternative program. So it's a pretty complex revenue stream. So whatever occurred at the school, decisions have been made to stay within budget and serve the kids the best possible. That's been a site-based decision. So it catches me by surprise, because I know that there were parapros at the school that were informed months ago that there would be a change in their hours and or positions, and they were helped to find other jobs. So if you're saying there's a surprise group, I'm not aware of that at all.
Yep, that's what they're saying, that they were hired in the fall and then told right before winter break that they couldn't come back because there was no more funding for them.
That happens with grants, unfortunately, way too often, where you have a one-time funding source and
that's all I'm asking. Why did that happen?
let's see what we can find out for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
On this motion on the table.
Yeah, so any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Thank you. All right, so our next.
So that's how the board meeting occurred on that particular item on January 7th. And as you can see, the editorial notes that I put on there, I didn't know those at the time of the meeting. I discovered a lot of that information following the meeting. Mikkel said that he thought the evaluations were online at USOE. I went to USOE and didn't find the evaluations, but I did find the application for the SIG grant at Horizonte. I had some information about the application because some of the teachers were quoting it to me, but I had not seen it. And so based on what the information he shared, I was able to locate it online on the USOE webpage. And that's what I discovered is that, that you see here there is 185. So there was a two-part question that I had that they were he was trying to make the point that they had nothing to do with each other. In my mind, they do though, because you have $185,000 here that was budgeted for paraprofessionals, and then you have $234,000 that was budgeted for bonuses. What the Associate Superintendent Patrick Garcia told me earlier on the phone is that the paraprofessionals, that they had to lay them off. They hired them in the fall, laid them off right before winter break just a month ago, because he says that the principal told him that the bonuses were not budgeted for, and that the grant application called for paying teacher bonuses, but there's no money in the budget for that, which is contrary to what we're looking at right here. Clearly, there was $234,000 in the budget and for bonuses, and there was for paraprofessionals is $185,000. So based on the budget and based on the actions and based on the explanation, they've depleted this $234,000 somehow, let go paraprofessionals to use this money into this category, and I'm not understanding how they can do that. Number one, that's one of my concerns right there. The other issue with these paraprofessionals is, and it's an integral part of the grant, as I pointed out in the meeting, the teachers were telling me that they were very important because they were actually helping the kids to get this individualized attention that they needed in the classroom. So you had the teacher, you had the parapro that was actually helping, the kids succeed. So it concerns me that now, for some reason, they're claiming this line item is depleted to the point that you had to now come get money from over here to pay bonuses. So I'm interested to see what the explanation is to that. Now, as to the evaluation, on page 31 of the grant application, I found that Charles Hausman and this other professor are doing the evaluations. And this evaluation will utilize, and they talk about on this next page how they use that evaluation. And so the idea is that they go through this cycle and that they would do these evaluations. And here they're calling them executive summaries of findings will be provided twice a year. And they're saying that the final report, as Mikhail pointed out, would be done at the end. But he was incorrect to say that there's nothing now, because according to this grant application, you continuously make course corrections every 2 years with your grant, your model, the way you're employing this reform, if you will, and with this funding, you make changes based on these reports that you're supposed to be getting twice a year. And that's what my concern is, that they're telling me that they don't have them, or they do have them, as you saw the seesaw effect go in the meeting. I was told earlier that day on the 7th that I would get them. Then I never got them. I didn't get them before the meeting. I didn't get them during the meeting, and I didn't get them after the meeting. And so what I did was on Friday, I went down to the USOE, to the State Office of Education, and this is a letter that I hand-delivered to Dr. Wilson. He's the director of Title I and federal programs at the State Office of Education. He was not there. The people that I talked to claimed that they did not have any of the evaluations, and that I needed to talk to him. So I left this letter. And it was, and it was an open letter. I told them they can read it. And in the letter, the last paragraph, I just said on Friday, I said, if I don't get this information emailed to me by the close of today on these evaluations, that I would file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education, the Inspector General's office, because I'm concerned that this money is not being spent appropriately, and I'm not getting an explanation for it. That's why you saw me in the board meeting on that Tuesday night vote against that. And then by Friday, nobody can still produce these evaluations. And again, as you noted, as I noted, these evaluations are integral to the success of this grant. So how are they making decisions to get rid of 8 to 10 adults in the school that are an integral part of the grant if they're not following this model of making decisions and doing course corrections based on the evaluations? So this is, all we're doing then is managing failure. We're not even using this money appropriately. And again, at the end of the day, then what happens is our kids suffer, which is why, this public school system is set up to have elected officials like me ask questions and to provide the accountability. But what happens is when you see a superintendent and a business administrator can get away with not responding and not providing information and not answer questions appropriately. You saw there the business administrator actually did a flip. She said in the beginning and said it a bit indignant, said, "I told you that there is evaluations. I said that in the email." And then when she hears the superintendent say, nope, there is no evaluation for this grant at Horizonte, she says, "Now I said that there wasn't any." So this happens, every other meeting that I was in last year, which is very frustrating to me. And as an elected official, again, I cannot fulfill my obligations to my neighbors who elected me because I'm held hostage then to the corrupt information that I'm getting from these two officials. And I'm asking the legislature, if you stayed on and watched this long, this is the end of this presentation, but that's what I'm asking for, that we need to figure out a way to hold these two people accountable in any school district. Thank you.